Hi there, I'm Angela Sharp, and welcome to the Daily Mix. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I actually noticed that it was a weekend this time. I hadn't been noticing that because I hadn't been working very much, but this week I actually noticed it was a weekend. Now, have you heard about this carnivore diet? All right, so this is a thing. A lot of people are doing it for weight loss. A lot of people are doing it if they have an autoimmune condition to kind of help clear some of those symptoms out, and it's the carnivore diet. So basically, you just eat meat. Some carnivore diets allow you a little bit of dairy, but for the most part, it's just meat. Well, I have a little bit of an autoimmune situation, so I figured, how hard can this be? I'm only eating fruit and vegetables as it is with some meat, so why don't we just go full meat? Like, that can't be hard, right? So I decided I was gonna do it this past weekend. I lasted 2 days. 2 days, that's it. Then I was just like jonesing for grapes. I know, it's a weird thing to really want, but apparently it's really hard. So if you've tried the carnivore diet, I would love to know like how it worked out for you, because I just couldn't get it to work, at least not this weekend. I might try again in a month, but we'll see. You guys, I got a great show for you today. We're gonna take you beyond the ballot at the very end of the show, show you what's going on with the Missouri History Museum, plus a lot of other things coming up. So let's get started on today's Daily Mix. It is the end of the season for the St. Louis Blues. You guys, before this even started, I was thinking about what a weird season this was for any NHL team. You start, you go, you finally get your groove, then you take this giant break, then you go into a bubble, which works for the COVID situation, but it has to be weird for the guys as far as like staying in, you know, kind of like a system of what they do every morning. You're not at your own house. It's all very different. Well, the Blues were eliminated. So I'm not really mad about it. Like I said, it's a very odd season, so it is what it is. But you guys know that I just love hockey. But did you know this? Did you know that there's an organization here in St. Louis that gives disabled and injured veterans the chance to play the game no matter what their skill level is? I think this is so cool. The Blues launched the St. Louis Blues Warrior Hockey earlier this summer, and the program is dedicated to supporting both hockey and veteran awareness issues in the St. Louis area by giving veterans a way to come together and support each other while competing against other teams. This is so neat. And now you can show your support by joining in on their virtual 5K. Now you can sign up online and complete the race at your own pace, of course on your own time, anytime between now and September 30th. To learn more about the race and this great organization, visit stlblueswarriorhockey.com. Plans for the replacement of the Compton Avenue bridge over Mill Creek Valley are now complete. The proposed bridge, located between Spruce Street and Choteau Avenue, will include 4 traffic lanes, a 2-way cycle track, and a pedestrian sidewalk. The new bridge will provide a safe north-south connection across the Mill Creek rail yard. A virtual public hearing will be held on Thursday, September 10th from 4 to 7. The public is welcome to join in at ComptonBridge.com to learn more and submit on their views of the design. The maps and other detailed information is available for public viewing at the Board of Public Service in room 301 in St. Louis City Hall. The City of St. Louis is also working closely with the Bi-State Development to expand transit to people who live and work in North and South St. Louis. The city has issued a request for qualifications to explore alternatives for the expansion of the public transit within the Northside and Southside corridor. And the Bi-State staff believe the results of this expanded review will offer a fuller picture of the options available. The RFQ for professional engineering and transportation planning services for the Northside Southside corridor and more can be found at the city's website at stlouis-mo.gov. Guys, there's so much to see and do at the Magic House and their Made for Kids satellite location. I got to visit that Made for Kids satellite location just a couple of months ago when things started to reopen. I'd never been there before. It's so very cool. I just really kind of love that. So how cool would this be if you had the area of the museum all to yourself? Well, now you can. Starting this weekend, you can reserve an hour of private playtime with family members and or friends at one of these special exhibits at the Magic House or Made for Kids before they open to the public. Then you get to stay and play afterwards throughout the rest of the museum. I think this sounds like a ton of fun and a great way to reward those kids who are kind of missing out on a lot of fun right now since we all have to be kind of kept inside. For more information and make a reservation, visit magichouse.org. I mentioned it at the top of the show, I got to go to Beyond the Ballot. That's over there at the Missouri History Museum. And I got the privilege of going with the woman who did all the research for the little exhibit area, right? So this is so great. You guys check this out. I have Katie Moon, the exhibits manager here at the Missouri History Museum, and you actually curated this event, Beyond the Ballot, right?
I did.
Okay, so first of all, when we put this into thoughts, it's been 100 years since women got the right to vote. When I think about that, I'm just floored by how that wasn't that long ago. Is that kind of what inspired you?
It is in a lot of ways. It's only been 100 years since we got the vote, but it's been 200 years of, trying and moving in that direction. And so it wasn't just a moment in time. It was, the result of 70 years at least of women attempting to get to that place.
And there are all these wonderful photos of these women right when you walk in, and you were telling me a great story about these women.
Right, so we decided to do something unique in the introduction of the exhibit, and all of the images that are here, there's over 250 of them, are women that have never been identified. So we don't know their names, we don't know their stories, we just know that at some point they lived or were in St. Louis before 1920.
That to me is crazy because when you look around, you can see all different types of women and all different kinds of clothing, and you don't know the stories beyond these photos.
Right. It's kind of haunting, actually. There are pictures of women who were probably brought here, not of their own volition, to be on display at the World's Fair, which is heart-wrenching, that we don't know their names. There are wedding photos, there are, upper-class women, and it was probably the first camera that they had ever seen. There are women who were probably enslaved. So it really runs the gamut of different women from all walks of life. But the thing that they share in common is that they don't have a voice and that we don't know their stories. And so what we really tried to do in this exhibit is to, in some small way, pay them respect and also to tell their story.
Yeah, well, so let's talk a little bit about this exhibit for people who have yet to experience it. What can they take in when they get here?
Sure. So it's a unique take on the suffrage story. So it is called Beyond the Ballot, and we look at the history of women in St. Louis really from its earliest days. I think some people have this idea or were taught or we just think that somehow women didn't do anything in St. Louis before they got the vote in 1920,
right.
Where in reality, women have been here since the very beginning and have been contributing to the city. And so the first half of the exhibit is really dedicated to those women before 1920 who were contributing to St. Louis. And so we have 32 women that we highlight with their names and their brief life story and their activity here, and also some artifacts and great images that show what women's roles were before 1920 and just provide more context of what was happening and what the city was like at that time. And then we finished the exhibit with the St. Louis suffrage story, which is a unique story in itself and one that a lot of people just don't know.
Well, it was one that I hadn't really known too much about. prior to hearing you on a different network, talking about it.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So St. Louis, in a lot of ways, I learned this as I was doing my research, was watched by the rest of the country as kind of a center of suffrage. Not so much in that we were doing crazy things or people were being arrested, but that events were happening here and that this was a location where things were really happening. One of the highlights of the suffrage story is a woman by the name of Virginia Minor, who was an early suffragist and took a case to the Supreme Court in the 1870s. And if she had gotten her way and had actually, the case had gone the way she wanted, women would have gotten the vote in 1875. But unfortunately, it didn't go her way, and so we had to keep working at it. But then we had conventions here, and we had the Golden Lane here in 1916, which was connected to the Democratic National Convention. So all sorts of things happened in St. Louis that most people have never heard of.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, we just kind of, I've always been able to vote. And you don't really think about all the work and all the trouble somebody and a group of people had to do before to get that right.
Right. It wasn't, right now we think, oh, I could just go register and then I can choose if I vote or not, or register or not. But for these women, they had no voice politically. They were, if they were married, they lived under what was called coverture, which meant that they were legally covered by their husband's identity. So they couldn't sue, they couldn't divorce, they couldn't inherit money, they couldn't prepare their own will if they were married. And so there was all those things that are tied up with the vote and being recognized as a legal person under the law.
Wow, it's just so crazy, and there's so much here. You've got multiple cases showing different clothing and that kind of thing, so that people can come in here and kind of really experience something that maybe they haven't really given a whole lot of thought to.
Right. If you go vote in November, you might wear jeans and a t-shirt. But for these women, it was a huge deal. And we wanted to give our visitors an idea of what women were wearing across these time periods. Because not only did these women do these amazing things, but they did them while they were wearing corsets and layers of petticoats and crinolines and, heavy clothes. And that's pretty incredible to think about, that they were really bound up, and yet they did all of these amazing things. So we get to showcase our textile collection and also show some amazing suffrage artifacts, and then also some more everyday artifacts or historical artifacts from organizations connected to women over the history of St. Louis.
Now, this Beyond the Ballot is going to be open till when?
Sure. It's open through March of 2022.
Okay, so people have plenty of time.
They really do, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to do public tours and be able to lead more and more people through it. We're limiting it right now to 40 people in the gallery, which is actually nice because it's quiet and you can get really up close and spend your time in here. And so people are enjoying that fact, but hopefully at some point we'll get more and more people in.
If there is one thing that you could share with somebody who maybe doesn't know too much about the story or doesn't know if they want to come, what would that be that you'd say, hey, come out here because?
That's a great question. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to come? I think it's a responsibility, honestly, especially as a woman living in St. Louis, to know the women in our history who have created and paved this way for us, but also to start to see St. Louis as an important city in American history, that in a lot of ways, because we are in the middle, we can't decide if we're southern or northern or western or eastern, that St. Louis was really kind of the center of where things were happening and the rest of the country was watching. And I think you see that in the suffrage movement too. And there's just lots of really cool, interesting stories and interesting women that I think we should know. We should know what they did, and we should know their names, just like we know the names of, so many men who were part of St. Louis history. There were women who were equally as important.
Right, and that's kind of one of the reasons I kind of love it here at the Missouri History Museum. How can somebody find out more information about the Missouri History Museum and, of course, Beyond the Ballot?
Sure. It's very easy. Just go to our website. It's mohistory.org. And in order to come to the museum, it's free, as it always has been and always will be. But they do have to register before they come in, because we're limiting the number of people in the museum. But once they're in, they are able to spend as much time as they want in the gallery and in the museum.
I really feel like you need to take the time to go visit that. No matter if you're a man or a woman, you need to go take a look and see what that was all about. Sometimes I think, especially for people in our age bracket, that you forget that voting wasn't a thing for women all the time. So I think that is very important. Beyond the Ballot runs through March 20th, 2022, so you have plenty of time to plan your visit, but I definitely think you can go. To reserve those free tickets online, go to mohistory.org. And after you do that, make sure you check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and drop us a line at thedailymix@stltv.net. We want to hear from you. That's going to do it for the Daily Mix. We keep it right here in STL TV and Experience St. Louis. See you next time.